Delhi. In fact, the talks are going on still as we speak, but given the lateness of the hour, we thought we would have an interaction with you. For this, we're really privileged to have with us Shri Harshvardhan Shringla, Foreign Secretary, sir, from the Ministry of External Affairs. We are also joined with us by our ambassador to Russia, Shri Pavan Kapoor, on my right here. We also have on my left Dr. Adarsh Swaika, Joint Secretary in the Eurasia Division of the Ministry. I would request Foreign Secretary, sir, to say a few initial words, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Namaskar and good evening, and thank you for bearing with us so late in the evening. We wanted to make sure that the talks were concluded before we started our briefing. As you know, the President of the Russian Federation, His Excellency Mr. Vladimir Putin, is on a brief working visit to India. He is here in the context of the 21st India-Russia Annual Summit. As you're aware, this is President Putin's second visit out of Russia since the COVID pandemic began. The only other visit he has undertaken was a brief visit to Geneva for the Russia-US summit that he had with President Biden. The fact that President Putin has decided to visit India for our annual summit exceptionally is an indication of the importance he attaches to the bilateral relationship and, of course, his personal rapport with Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. You're also aware that President Putin had conferred Russia's highest civilian award on the Prime Minister in 2019. The visit of President Putin is short, but nonetheless highly productive, highly substantive. There were excellent discussions between the two leaders, and much of this will be reflected in the outcome document that is expected to be issued shortly. The visit concluded in a joint statement titled India-Russia Partnership for Peace, Progress and Prosperity. The joint statement captures the state and future potential of our relationship. In all, a record number of 28 agreements or MOUs were concluded during this visit. These agreements were both government to government as well as business to business, including involving our public sector units in both countries. The agreements cover a very wide range of sectors, including trade, energy, culture, intellectual property, accountancy, cyber attacks in the banking sector, manpower, geological exploration, survey, education, etc. India and Russia have also signed a program of cooperation in the field of defense for the next 10 years, 2021 to 2031. The diversity of agreements and MOUs signed today shows the multifaceted nature of our bilateral partnership. We will be sharing the joint statement and the list of agreements concluded with you shortly. The Prime Minister and President Putin held in-depth discussions on strengthening our bilateral and multilateral cooperation in the spirit of our special and privileged strategic partnership. Both leaders noted that the extent of our bilateral cooperation in fighting the COVID pandemic was significant, in particular in the areas of vaccines and humanitarian assistance. It would be recalled that fairly early in the COVID pandemic, India had supplied COVID-related medicines to 25 regions and over 60 hospitals of Russia. In the same spirit of solidarity, Russia supported our efforts to fight the second wave of the pandemic. We'll also recall that President Putin spoke to Prime Minister Modi on the 28th of April this year, after which there was extensive Russian support and solidarity in the form of the supply of concentrators, medicines, and so on and so forth. Prime Minister thanked President Putin for the welfare of the Indian community in Russia, especially during the COVID pandemic, particularly for the 15,000 Indian students resident in Russia. Both leaders discussed the need for mutual recognition of vaccine certification to enable easier travel of our citizens to each other's countries. the enhancing bilateral trade and investments figured prominently in the talks. This year we have noticed an encouraging trend of growth in our trade compared to last year, when there was a downturn owing to the COVID pandemic. Obviously, I think both sides are looking forward to continued increase in the trade and investment trajectory. Some very ambitious targets have been set, and we are, I think, well on our way to achieving those both in the trade and investment side. There was talk of how to enhance our trade and economic cooperation, including through long-term procurement of essential commodities, elimination of trade barriers, strengthening inter-regional linkages, bolstering connectivity, including through the international north-south transport corridor and the Chennai-Vladivostok Eastern Maritime Corridor. These two initiatives are very important and special initiatives. We're happy to speak more about them as we have an interactive session following this statement. Also on the trade and investment side, I think there are some very specific plans which include long-term cooperation in the areas of inland waterways, civilian shipbuilding, fertilizer, coking coal, steel, skilled manpower. Essentially what we're looking at is long-term arrangements whereby some of the essential commodities that we need from Russia are available on some sort of arrangement that could be to our mutual benefit. Cooperation in coking coal, for example, has emerged as an important area of cooperation. In the last few years, we have supplied an MOU. We have signed an MOU in October with Russia for coking coal for the steel making industry in India. We have recently entered into short-term contracts for fertilizers. We are looking at long-term arrangements in both these areas, including also in other areas of energy that is of interest to both sides. There was a discussion on follow-up to cooperation in the Russian Far East. You will recall that Prime Minister had visited Vladivostok in 2009 for the last annual summit, where he was also guest of honor at the Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok. We know that a delegation from the government of Gujarat is now is visiting Russia in order to invite the governors of the Russian Far East for the Vibrant Gujarat Summit in January 2022. There are a number of other areas of cooperation there which are progressing, and I think the leaders had opportunity to take stock of that. There was also discussion in detail about our cooperation in the strategic area of energy. As you know, we are already importing crude oil, and we have a long-term contract for gas supplies with Russia. I think we have expressed interest in further investments in the oil and gas sectors in each other's countries, as well as the area of petrochemicals. There are some specific projects which are on the anvil, and I think that will significantly enhance our two-way investments. Our cooperation, very important strategic cooperation in the area of civil, nuclear energy and space was also discussed, and both sides felt it was progressing well. We looked at what could be the next steps in all of these areas of very important cooperation. Cultural cooperation, people-to-people ties came up for discussion. We hope to further enhance this cooperation with the signing of a cultural exchange program for 2021-24. We are also looking at intensifying our Buddhist links with Russia. There are apparently 15 million Buddhists in Russia, and this community is keen on looking at India for pilgrimages, other areas of interest, so that cultural cooperation and that connect is also of interest to both countries. The President Putin and the Prime Minister exchanged views on regional and international issues of common interest. They decided to continue close consultation and coordination between India and Russia on the situation in Afghanistan, including for a peaceful, secure and stable Afghanistan with an inclusive government that represents all sections of society. Both sides were also very clear that Afghanistan territory should not be used for sheltering, training or planning, financing any acts of terrorism. There were, of course, concerns over the issue of drugs and other concerns that could emanate from Afghanistan. There was a need to obviously, felt that humanitarian assistance to the people of Afghanistan was important. There was a lot of emphasis on the issue of counterterrorism. I think both sides were clear that this is an area of common interest, as of course, similarity of views on all issues of regional and global importance. But in particular, I think counterterrorism was mentioned and discussed, and I think you will find that there was this fairly strong sense of joint sense on how to deal with terrorist entities such as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Lashkar-e-Toiba, and other entities that are functioning in our neighborhood. During discussions on multilateral cooperation, the Prime Minister conveyed his personal appreciation to President Putin for his participation in the high-level segment on maritime security that India hosted under its presidency of the UN Security Council in the month of August. President Putin confirmed Russia's continued support for the permanent membership of India in a reformed and expanded UN Security Council. He also acknowledged and thanked India for its support for Russia's observership both in NAM as well as the Indian Ocean Rim Association. The summit was preceded by a bilateral meeting between our defense ministers and our foreign ministers, and the convening of the Intergovernmental Commission on military and military technical cooperation matters. And more importantly, we held the first 2+2 dialogue at the level of foreign and defense ministers this morning. It was a very substantive meeting with very extensive exchanges on areas of common interest that could encompass both regional and global issues. And I think both sides appreciated the opportunity for this fairly candid exchange on views that seem to reflect a great deal of commonality in our thinking and our positions on various matters that were discussed. The 2+2 dialogue also allowed exchanges on areas that we had an interest in our own neighborhood, such as Afghanistan, other international hotspots. On the COVID-19 pandemic, I think the inadequacy of existing multilateral systems to respond to threats in an integrated and networked world was certainly discussed, and both sides were on the same page. Ministers agreed that the 2+2 dialogue helped in exchanging perspectives on important issues. Russian defense and foreign ministers invited their counterparts, our defense Raksha Mantri and External Affairs Minister, to visit Russia for the next 2+2 dialogue next year. The invitation was accepted, and dates will be decided through diplomatic channels. As you can imagine, a very extensive cooperation extended to acknowledging the 50th anniversary of the 1971 Treaty of Peace, Friendship and Cooperation signed between India and the then Soviet Union. Also 2 decades of the Declaration of Strategic Partnership. This was in 2000 when President Putin had visited India that the strategic partnership was established. It's been 2 decades since then. Just to sum up, very positive trajectory of trade and investment relationship, new drivers of economic growth such as long-term sourcing and of course investment cooperation. Areas like fertilizers, coking coal, gas were certainly identified as possible areas of mutual interest. I think there was a sense that Russian companies could enhance their involvement in 13 key sectors of the production-linked incentive scheme of the Government of India under our Atmanirbhar Bharat program and Make in India initiatives. There was a greater intensity of inter-regional dialogue on economic cooperation between the states, our states and the regions of Russia. I did mention about the Vibrant Gujarat initiative involving the Russian Far East. As an example, there was some reference to this. There was, of course, a very important development in the signing of the military cooperation program for the next 10 years. We also concluded the joint production of the AK-203 rifles. As you know, this has been under discussion for some time. This agreement was also concluded to satisfaction. It is another example of joint manufacturing under the Make in India program, greater involvement of Russia in investing in India jointly with Indian companies. The international north-south corridor, as I mentioned, provides a very, very cost-effective, faster multimodal transportation between Russia, Central Asia, Iran, and India using the Chabahar port, and that connectivity is something that is under discussion between the two sides as well as our other partners, including Iran and Central Asian states. There was appreciation on the space program, training of 4 Indian cosmonauts who are on the Gaganyaan mission. They've concluded their training, but there is many other areas of cooperation with Russia in the space sector, including joint development, joint R&D, etc. In terms of, I mentioned about the importance attached to terrorism by both sides, including the fact that both sides stressed on the need to address the scourge of cross-border terrorism. And I think both sides shared their commitment to fight against international terrorism, the need for concerted action against all terrorist groups, including those proscribed by the United Nations. Both sides felt it was important that the perpetrators of terrorism be brought to justice. In that context, there was a need felt to support and strengthen the FATF mechanism and the UN Office of Counterterrorism. On Afghanistan, again, I've mentioned the main elements, including the issue of terrorism emanating from Afghanistan, concerns in that regard. And of course, both sides felt that the safeguarding of global commons, including our oceans, etc., principles of transparency, and of course the need for a post-pandemic world to have transparent, reliable and resilient supply chains was also discussed. So this is in very brief. Of course, we'll be happy to respond to questions now.
Thank you very much, sir, for such a comprehensive overview. I will take a few questions now, but please introduce yourself and the outlet that you start off with. Let's start with Pranay, please.
फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी, मेरा सवाल 2+2 डायलॉग को लेकर है. उसमें भारत की तरफ से जब चीन ईस्टर्न लद्दाख के टेंशन को लेकर उठाया गया मुद्दा, तो रशिया की तरफ से क्या कहा गया, क्या उसमें सहमति जताई गई? और दूसरा, रशिया की तरफ से जब ऑकस को लेकर टिप्पणी की गई, तो क्या भारत वो कंसर्न शेयर करता है कि ऑस्ट्रेलिया को न्यूक्लियर पावर सबमरीन की सप्लाई जो है वो इस इलाके में और आसियान रीजन को न्यूक्लियराइज करने का खतरा पैदा कर सकती है?
Smita Sharma, contributing editor with India Ahead. Harsha. Just to follow up on Pranay's question, I mean, Mr. Lavrov speaking to press after the 2+2, and I'm quoting him, he said, "We expressed our concern about the activities taking place in this region under the slogan of Indo-Pacific strategy, where we see non-inclusive blocs, the latest being AUKUS." What was the nature of the discussions on Quad and Indo-Pacific? Has it emerged as a key area of divergence between the two countries? And just a quick reaction on if the Ukrainian military developments came up for discussion, if India has a view of that and the tensions between US and Russia at the moment.
Siddhant,
Hi, sir. Siddhant from WION. My question is, was there a conversation regarding Chinese aggressiveness during Prime Minister Modi and President Putin's meeting? Also, on Pakistan-based international terror groups, how much there was conversation between the two leaders?
I saw a hand there. Yeah, please.
Sir, I'm Akhilesh Suman from Samsat TV. Was there any talk on the issue of America and China between Prime Minister and President?
And final round of this question there. You had a query? No.
Mujib Mashal from the New York Times. If I can ask, sir, is there an update on the S-400? Was that discussed? And what is the latest on that? And how do you balance that with the U.S. threats of sanctions if India continues with that deal?
So I think we'll take this round of questions.
So let me try and respond to some of these. Some questions do overlap, and I'll try and respond in general terms. I think the issue, one of the issues raised was, concern about the Indo-Pacific strategy. Here, I would say that, the discussions at the 2+2 were quite extensive, covered a very wide range of areas. We discussed Southeast Asia, ASEAN, and of course we did discuss the Indo-Pacific and India security concerns. I would think that as far as the Indo-Pacific is concerned, there was a sense that we are cooperating quite extensively already with Russia on areas that involve the region. I did mention the Vladivostok-Chennai maritime corridor, that link, which is an important one, where the DPR is nearing completion, and we are looking at operationalizing that corridor, that maritime corridor, quite soon. We are working, we've also discussed with Russia on extending our cooperation in the Indian Ocean region also, maritime cooperation. So we're working with Russia in the region, but on all issues that have been mentioned, प्रणय आपने भी चीन के बारे में जिक्र किया था, ईस्टर्न लद्दाख की जो अभी जो समस्या, जो स्थिति वहाँ पे है, इसके बारे में चर्चा के बारे में आपने जिक्र किया. तो ये मैं कह सकता हूँ कि जितने भी मुद्दे थे इंडो पैसिफिक और जो हमारे सुरक्षा के अनुसार जो कंसर्न्स थे, वो सब डिस्कस किए गए हैं, और इससे ज़्यादा मैं अभी कह नहीं पाऊँगा. With regard to, I think, the issue of Pak-based terror groups, I think this is a question that Siddhant had raised. As I told you, there was a strong convergence on the issue of counterterrorism. There was a sense by both sides that strong action needed to be taken by the international community to address the issue of terrorism, particularly cross-border terrorism. Specific reference was made to the Lashkar-e-Toiba and other groups operating in our region. I think you can understand from this that there was the fullest sense that all those responsible for terrorism in our neighborhood need to be certainly taken into account by the international community. With regard to the Ukrainian military developments, I think Smita had asked that question. In the 2+2, I think the Russian side did provide a briefing on that situation. I don't think there was anything beyond that. I think Mujib had raised a question on the S-400. I think there was a sense that the S-400, which, as you're aware, is a legacy contract going back to 2018, and in fact discussed well before that. Supplies have begun this month and will continue to happen. On all issues relating to other countries, I think there was some mention of some other countries. It is important to note that whether it is us or Russia, we conduct an independent foreign policy, and I don't think we need to look at our relationship in the light of any other relationship that is there.
Thank you, sir. We'll take, yeah, please.
So, my name is Basu from The Print. Just wanted to understand what were the discussions around CATSA, and also were there any discussion on humanitarian assistance legitimacy to the Taliban government? What was the conversation around that? Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, okay, please. Okay, one here and then.
So Sandhya with ET Online. A quick question on the PLI scheme that you have mentioned. Which are the Russian companies or which are the sectors that India is looking to collaborate on Make in India? Thanks.
Yeah, Srinjoy, please.
So this military technical agreement, would that include possible transfer in the future of hypersonic technology? And there's always been talk, particularly from the Russian side, of transfer on lease of Amur class submarines, and not the Akula class submarines, sorry. And one was here, one is under discussion, a third is on offer. Was any discussions on that during the 2+2?
And yeah, okay. Last round of questions here. Okay.
Sir, Suman Sharma from European Security and Defence. Sir, was logistics support agreement signed or not?
Okay. So if I could, we'll close with that.
Well, let's start with RELOS, the Reciprocal Logistical Support Agreement. We signed 28 agreements. We are working on a very wide canvas of agreements, including a military cooperation agreement for the next 10 years, the joint manufacture of AK-47, AK-203 in India. The issue of RELOS is being put off for some time because there is still a few issues that we need to discuss further. So I think we will be concluding it the earliest possible, but it was not concluded during this visit. With regard to CATSA, I don't think this issue came up at all. I did mention about the S-400 on humanitarian assistance in Afghanistan. I think both sides agreed that humanitarian assistance for the people of Afghanistan would be called for, and that both sides were making efforts to provide that essential support to the Afghan people. The question of legitimacy of the government, I think, did not come up at all. The issue really was whether we should be extending humanitarian assistance. With regard to the PLI scheme, of course, I think there was one example that was certainly mentioned, that of steel. I think the Prime Minister invited Russian investments in the steel sector. The Russian side also expressed interest in that sector because it was felt that certain technologies, certain inputs could come in, which would be, I think, useful for both sides. The PLI sector, of course, there's also scope in shipbuilding, in the railways. There again, there is an interest, and I mentioned 13 key sectors. And those are certainly, areas, as I mentioned, civilian shipbuilding. You've got, areas like organic chemicals, steel, etc. And these are, and we have also asked the Russian side to continue consideration of setting up manufacturing facilities in greenfield industrial cities under the Industrial Corridor Program of the government. Sanjay, I think I did mention that there was at the 2+2 fairly extensive discussion on defense-related cooperation. There was a sense that the Russian side was very cognizant of the fact that the priority in India was on joint manufacturing, collaborations, technology transfers, and they were very much in the spirit of entering into partnerships with us in that regard. I think that was the focus of that entire 2+2 meeting and subsequent discussions that took place at the summit level between the Prime Minister and the President, how Russia could be continue to partner us in areas where we can work together collaboratively under the spirit of Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. And this, I think, discussion was an area of great convergence between both our sides.
That brings us to the end of this special media briefing. May I thank Foreign Secretary Sir, Mr. Harshvardhan Shringla.
Ambassador wants to say.
Would you like to? Sir? Also, our thanks to Ambassador Pawan Kapoor and Joint Secretary Dr. Adarsh Swaika. Thank you all for joining us. Namaskar. Good evening.
So we just brought to you live the briefing by Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla on the bilateral meeting, the 21st bilateral meeting between India and Russia. Its leaders, namely Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Russian President Vladimir Putin, where he said that a total of 28 agreements and MOUs, and these are government to government and business to business as well. They've all been signed, they've been inked, so a lot has been done in a span of 6 hours that the Russian president was here on a working visit, as it's been termed. This is, of course, a long time after that he's really stepped out of Russia, the only exception being in June when he went to Geneva to meet the US president. He's come to India now, to New Delhi, to take part in the 21st India-Russia annual summit, which is part of that special and strategic partnership that India and Russia share, and they've been sharing that for the last 2 decades, and it is being taken forward in multifarious ways, as you could make out. 13 key sectors is what the Foreign Secretary mentioned, and apart from that, a lot of other issues as well, from the S-400 Triumph missile defense system to others, even questions related to hypersonic missiles being posed by the media in terms of to what extent can Indian and Russian defense cooperation go forward, because that is the kind of cooperation that India and Russia have had, and before that even the USSR, when the USSR was there. And it's a long-standing relationship that is extended from helping India build its industrial base soon after its independence, extending up to now when both our modern progressive nations are taking on the digital age as well, and that's where India and Russia are also looking at extending their cooperation further, taking on the issue of cyber security as well. That is again something that these leaders have been looking at very closely, apart from taking the partnership forward in the more conventional areas of cooperation, be it military and defense, oil and gas, energy in overall, and even critical areas like metals and space technology. We've been doing a lot of that as well. There are 4 Indian astronauts or cosmonauts that are being trained there in Russia for a manned flight later on, and that is also something that was very closely tracked. Apart from how Russia is, of course, the media very interested in understanding how the Russians now look at Indo-Pacific as a formulation, and it was discussed as well, but details have not been shared at this point because the Russians have had a bit of an issue about this particular kind of perspective of the region that they still consider to be Asia Pacific. We'll talk about this extensively with my colleague Amritpal Singh as and when he can join us, and with our guests as well. But let's just tell you what has happened so far. The Prime Minister Modi hosted Russian President Vladimir Putin for the 21st annual India-Russia summit. This is President Putin's second foreign visit in the last 2 years since the COVID pandemic began. Now, in their opening statements, both leaders reiterated their commitment to further strengthening ties amidst the fast-changing geopolitical equations. More in this report.
An in-person meeting after November 2019. Prime Minister Narendra Modi hosted President Vladimir Putin for the 21st India-Russia summit at Hyderabad House. What makes this summit even more significant is the fact that the first ever 2+2 dialogue between India and Russia was held just a few hours before the two leaders met.
आज हमारे विदेश एवं रक्षा मंत्रियों के बीच 2+2 डायलॉग की पहली बैठक हुई। इससे हमारे व्यवहारिक सहयोग को बढ़ाने का एक नया मैकेनिज्म शुरू हुआ है।
Prime Minister said that the fact that President Putin's India visit was the second one in the last 2 years illustrates Vladimir Putin's closeness and personal commitment towards boosting India-Russia ties. Ties between both nations have only grown stronger over the last 2 years, be it in the field of vaccine research, humanitarian assistance, or in assisting repatriation of citizens during the lockdown. The two nations' close cooperation has been a hallmark of ties. Prime Minister Modi described 2021 as a landmark year for India-Russia ties.
वर्ष 2021 हमारे द्विपक्षीय संबंधों के लिए कई मायनों में महत्वपूर्ण है। इस वर्ष 1971 की ट्रीटी ऑफ पीस, फ्रेंडशिप एंड कोऑपरेशन के 5 दशक और हमारी स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप के 2 दशक पूरे हो रहे हैं। अफगानिस्तान और दूसरे क्षेत्रीय विषयों पर भी हम निरंतर संपर्क में रहे हैं।
India-Russia ties have been a constant factor among the variables in the geopolitical and international arena in recent times.
पिछले कई दशकों में वैश्विक स्तर पर कई फंडामेंटल बदलाव आए, कई तरह के जियोपॉलिटिकल समीकरण उभरे, किंतु इन सभी वेरिएबल्स के बीच भारत रूस मित्रता एक कांस्टेंट रही है। दोनों देशों ने न सिर्फ एक दूसरे के साथ निसंकोच सहयोग किया है, एक दूसरे की सेंसिटिविटीज का भी विशेष ख्याल रखा है। यह सचमुच इंटर स्टेट दोस्ती का एक यूनिक और विश्वस्त मॉडल है।
President Vladimir Putin described India as a time-tested friend. He expressed his concern over the situation in Afghanistan. Building on the foundations laid at the Eastern Economic Forum in 2019, both nations have set a target of $30 billion worth of trade and doubling investment to $50 billion by 2025. Cooperation in co-development and co-production under Make in India have also seen a boost. Cooperation in defense, space and nuclear sectors is on the rise.
We perceive India as a great power, a friendly nation, and a time-tested friend. We are truly cooperating and working on very important and promising matters. That applies to the energy sector and high-tech, including space. And I think that the programs that we will be discussing here today will be implemented fully, including the training of Indian spacemen cosmonauts. We also cooperate greatly in military and technical sphere, like with no other country. We continue to cooperate jointly on global agenda, and as you have said, indeed, our positions are quite similar or coincide. Naturally, we are concerned about everything that has to do with terrorism. I mean, the fight against terrorism, also fighting drug trafficking and organized crime. And with that regard, naturally, we are concerned about the developments of the situation in Afghanistan.
Judging by the outcomes of the 2+2 meet, as well as the opening statements the two leaders made, the import of the first in-person meeting, albeit only for a few hours, between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Vladimir Putin is immense. With Amritpal Singh and Meghna Dev, Bureau Report, DD India.
And prior to the summit meeting, India and Russia held their first ever 2+2 dialogue. A record 28 pacts have been inked, including one for joint production of over 6 lakh AK-203 assault rifles. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and their counterparts Sergei Shoigu and Sergei Lavrov took part in the dialogue. The discussions were held on emerging challenges and the need for enhanced military and military technical cooperation with Russia. The first ever 2+2 dialogue between India and Russia after over 2 decades of strategic level partnership. Till now, India has had a 2+2 format of meetings with the US, Japan and Australia, all members of the Quad grouping. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar represented the Indian side, while the Russian side was represented by Sergei Shoigu and Sergei Lavrov.
We are meeting at a critical juncture in the global geopolitical environment, which is in great flux. The COVID-19 pandemic has raised questions about the current model of global affairs, but the long-standing challenges remain even as new ones emerge. Prominent among them are terrorism, violent extremism and radicalization. The situation in Afghanistan has wider repercussions, including for Central Asia. West Asia or the Middle East continues to present hotspots. Maritime security and safety is another domain of shared concern.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh said, India-Russia defence cooperation has progressed in an unprecedented manner in recent times. He expressed confidence that Russia will remain a major partner for India amidst the fresh challenges of recent times.
The pandemic, the extraordinary militarization and expansion of armament in our neighborhood, and the unprovoked aggression on our northern border since early summer of 2020 have thrown in several challenges. India is confident of overcoming these challenges with its strong political will and inherent capability of its people. We hope that Russia will remain a major partner for India in these challenging circumstances. From Ministry of Defence, we have urged our greater military technical collaboration, advanced research, co-development and co-production of defence equipment leading to self-reliance of India. Separately, we proposed greater engagements in Central Asia and the Indian Ocean region.
At the 2+2 meet, Russian Foreign Affairs Minister Sergei Lavrov said that the new dialogue mechanism will prove to be an efficient platform where several regional, bilateral and international issues will be discussed. He said it will help reinforce the specially privileged strategic partnership between the two nations. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said India-Russia cooperation in military technical sector is significant.
Both Russia and India have a similar worldview of a more polycentric, more multipolar, more equitable world order. We advocate similar or identical positions on the most important political and military issues. We speak in favor of international law, reinforcing the collective principle of international affairs. We adhere to the principle of non-interference in the domestic affairs of other countries, and we have great respect for cultural and civilizational diversity of our world. This creates a very good platform for productive work.
सैन्य तकनीकी क्षेत्रों में ये विशेष रूप से महत्वपूर्ण है हमारे देशों के संबंधों के लिए। इस विकसित हो रही दुनिया में आज जो अंतर सरकारी आयोग की बैठक हुई मेरे समकक्ष और मैं हमारे बीच विस्तृत चर्चा हुई हमारे सहयोग के बारे में रक्षा के क्षेत्र में और हम आगे के लिए योजनाएं हमने बनाए। मुझे विश्वास है कि जो दोनों देश के जो एजेंसियां हैं वे योगदान करेंगे ताकि हम क्षेत्रीय विश्वास को बढ़ा सकें और वैश्विक स्तर पर सुरक्षा को बढ़ा सकें।
In a huge boost for defense ties, India and Russia inked an agreement for joint production of over 6 lakh AK-203 assault rifles at a manufacturing facility in Uttar Pradesh's Amethi, besides firming up another pact on military technical cooperation for 10 years from 2021 to 2031. The rifles will be manufactured for the Indian Armed Forces at a cost of around 5,000 crore rupees. The two sides also inked a pact on amending the agreement on cooperation in the field of manufacturing of the Kalashnikov series of small arms that was originally sealed in February 2019. Another agreement was signed on the protocol of the 20th IRIGC M&NTC. The agreements were signed at the 20th meeting of the India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Military and Military Technical Cooperation between Defense Minister Rajnath Singh and Russian Defense Minister General Sergei Shoigu. Both leaders discussed emerging challenges India is confronted with and the enhanced requirement of closer military and military technical cooperation with Russia. From vaccine cooperation to Afghanistan and the changes in the region post the Taliban takeover, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and his Russian counterpart discussed a wide range of issues.
In all, a record number of 28 agreements or MOUs were concluded during this visit. These agreements were both government to government as well as business to business, including involving our public sector units in both countries. The agreements cover a very wide range of sectors, including trade, energy, culture, intellectual property, accountancy, cyber attacks in the banking sector.
All right, we'll bring you that report a little later. Right now, we're getting you images of President Putin and Prime Minister Modi at the Hyderabad House. They've just concluded their meeting a little while back, and now since this is a working visit and President Putin is here only for about 6 hours or so, I believe it will be Prime Minister Modi seeing him off from Hyderabad House. This is of course after what seems to be another landmark summit meeting between the two leaders, the 21st India-Russia Annual Summit, where of course the PM also mentioned how it's 50 years of that treaty that was signed in 1971. That was of course India and USSR at that time, and it's also been 2 decades of this strategic partnership that India and Russia share, which is now special and privileged, and there's every evidence of that, the way things have gone today, with the first, that is the inaugural 2+2 dialogue, which is a dialogue between the defense and external affairs of foreign ministers of both the sides. This format only there for Russia, apart from the Quad grouping countries. India's only got a 2+2 dialogue going with US, Japan, and of course the fourth component of the Quad. and now with Russia as well. And a lot has emerged from that, apart from jointly manufacturing more than 6 lakh AK-203 rifles in Amethi. The military technical agreement that India has with Russia has been extended by another 10 years. And as the Foreign Secretary said, 28 MOUs and agreements have been signed altogether. And these include B2B and G2D ones, including involving some of India's public sector. So all this has taken place on this very day. And that brings up our In Focus tonight. India-Russia summit adds firepower to ties. And to talk about it, we have DB Venkatesh Verma, former Indian ambassador to Russia, and we also have Ajay Malhotra with us, also another former Indian ambassador to Russia and senior advisor at the BRICS Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Welcome to you both, and very good evening to you. First to you, DB Venkatesh Verma, what do you make of the kind of information that the Foreign Secretary has imparted? 28 MOUs and agreements in all G2G, B2B. We don't have details yet, but it covers a very wide range. And what we know, of course, is something that the Indian Armed Forces had been waiting for a long time. That is an effective rifle, and they will get that in now due course, because that joint manufacturing is going to commence very soon as well in Amethi.
This has been a very successful visit of President Putin and his meeting with our Prime Minister Modi. It has added a new strength and a new dimension to our traditionally friendly relations, relations of strategic partnership, which is special and privileged. And 28 agreements and MOUs have been signed, have been concluded. In addition to our traditional strengths, which is in defense, and you mentioned the AK-203 agreement, which was one of the most foremost assault weapons. It will be manufactured in India with 100% indigenization and transfer of technology. It will be set up in UP, and in a couple of years' time, the majority of our armed forces will be armed with this very modern, very good assault weapon. But it's not just defense. The Foreign Secretary's briefing indicated that there's a very strong accent on diversification and participation in each other's priorities. And there's a lot of emphasis on Make in India, on Make in India programs, participation and Russian investments into various diverse sectors in India. Russian investment will be very welcome. There is a strong determination to diversification of our relations, and I think the excellent personal rapport between the two leaders, Prime Minister Modi and President Putin, has indeed shown today once again to both countries and to the world at large that India and Russia stand with each other on major international issues, on regional issues. We find that in addition to our bilateral relationship, our coordination and consultations on international issues, including through the new mechanism of the 2+2, which was set forth today with the participation of the foreign and defense ministers. So I would say this has been an extraordinarily successful summit, and in keeping with the tradition of excellent relations with Russia, we have every reason to be satisfied with the results of the summit.
Certainly, certainly. Ambassador Malhotra, what do you make of it? We're still to learn the extensive details of what these 28 MOUs and agreements are about, but you've been, of course, tracking this relationship, apart from, of course, the fact that you were ambassador there as well. So in terms of assessing the progress of ties, especially where strategic ties are concerned, how would you see this particular bilateral as a milestone?
Well, let me start by saying that when we talk of time-tested friendship, or a friendship which is deep-rooted or of long-standing, these are not merely words. These really show that underlying our friendship, both of our countries see benefit in the enhanced strength of the other, of each other. And a strong and prosperous Russia, which fulfills its international responsibilities, meets India's interests, and vice versa. So why is this so? You asked a question from a security angle. I think a major reason is that neither country perceives a security threat from the other.
Right.
And this allows us to cooperate in sensitive and strategic fields. You mentioned defense, nuclear energy, space, oil and gas, science and technology. So if we have 28 agreements signed across 13 key sectors, as you informed us, I'm not surprised to hear about that. And this augurs well for the future of our relationship, which is not subject to any conditionality. It is, when people talk of India's ties with Russia and then India's ties with USA, this is not a zero-sum game. And our growing engagement with USA and our drawing closer to countries in the India-Pacific is not at the cost of our friendship with Russia. I think this was borne out by the fact that President Putin felt it important enough to come in real life up here. He could have easily done the same interaction through a virtual mode and nobody would have raised serious questions about it. But he felt it important, even if for a few hours, to come here and meet his friend of long standing. And they first met, if you recall, in the year 2001, when as Chief Minister, Mr. Modi had gone to Moscow and signed the cooperation agreement between Gujarat and Astrakhan. So it is a friendship of long. 2014, when he became Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, they have met. This is probably the 20th time since 2014 itself. So this is a friendship. You can see it in the body language. You can see it in their interaction, which is deep-rooted and long-standing. It isn't merely words which we use in a light manner when we refer to the relationship using those terms.
Yes, certainly. And the fact that certain issues were mentioned, which really stick out, and the media is particularly keen to hear about, what each side said about these particular issues to the other, be it the issue of what the Defense Minister mentioned as aggression in the north, that we know is China, although China was not named. Then, of course, the larger construct of the Indo-Pacific, that has been a bit of a problem as well for Russia, particularly. I think it was mentioned in New Delhi as well by the Russian Foreign Minister after having had that 2+2 dialogue. So all these questions did come up, apart from S-400 and some of the other, the issue with Ukraine as well. Now, all these things, do you feel in the larger scheme of things, to what extent do they matter? Because you yourself mentioned these are long-standing ties, and these two countries have been friends for so long.
Well, it's important that you share with your friends your concerns. And if you look even at the Russia-China entente, which they say derives from close and trust-based political ties, there are differences and alignment there between Russia and China also. For example, look at Crimea. China regards it as a part of Ukraine. You look at, let's say, Abkhazia and South Ossetia. These are regarded as independent countries by the Russians, but they're not recognized by China. Similarly, Russia too doesn't recognize Chinese claims in the South China Sea or wish to get embroiled in its territorial disputes. So there are differences, there are nuances, there are issues up there. In fact, I would say neither Russia nor China would like to get drawn into a major conflict as a result of backstopping the national interests of each other. So it is good for us to voice any concerns we might have, and we have, since they last met, we have had this situation on our northern, on the line of actual control. It is important we share it with our Russian friend. Equally, it is important they share with us what's going on in Ukraine. I mean, the whole world is saying Russian troops are amassed near the Ukraine border. This seems to be something emanating from the Western media. I'm sure he would have also shared with him and frankly told his friend what exactly is going on. Tomorrow, as you know, there will be a secure video call between Putin and Biden. So he may even have hinted it, or they may have discussed that. And looking ahead, you have the Democracy Summit coming up 2-3 days from now. That is also something of interest. The Russians have not been invited there. They may want to know some things. So in the next few days, there are many things happening of interest to both sides.
Yes, definitely. And Ambassador Verma, in terms of again, areas of interest that are of common concern, from trade and energy and investments to Afghanistan. These are also extensively discussed, and I'm sure that there is a lot that India and Russia can do for not just countries like Afghanistan, but for other corners of the world which have seen conflict as well, and they have been mentioned as well in the joint statement.
Indeed. India-Russia bilateral relationship has been diversified. India is looking at participation in major projects in the Russian Far East. Prime Minister, when he visited Vladivostok in 2019, announced $1 billion soft credit line, and when that is implemented, it is a very powerful instrument for our Indian business to participate in projects. Coking coal, fertilizers, ports, inland waterways, those have been mentioned. That again, it provides new drivers in our relationship. On Afghanistan, after the withdrawal of American troops, of course, the instability that has emanated from that country is a concern for the entire region, and in particular for India and Russia, because we have common threats. And there's been a concerted effort, including during the course of the discussions today, to converge and harmonize our views. The Russian National Security Advisor led a very major delegation to India. He had discussions with Mr. Doval, who our NSA hosted a very major regional conference on Afghanistan. So we are moving ahead, and international aid to Afghanistan is something that India and Russia are coordinating with our Central Asian partners as well. So the message coming out from today's meeting and the summit is the extraordinary personal rapport that exists between our Prime Minister Modi, and President Putin. The additional platform for dialogue that has emerged, the 2+2 dialogue, the strong emphasis on mutuality of interests on international issues, including on counterterrorism, on international issues relating to the region, and also a strong view to diversify our economic and trade relations. In addition, we are also looking at what the Foreign Secretary mentioned. We're looking at a new dimension of our people-to-people contacts, which were further strengthened during the COVID pandemic situation, which is the emphasis on Buddhist cooperation with 3 Buddhist regions of Russia, and that in itself will be a major a new dimension of our participation. But including on the COVID situation, there's been extraordinary exchanges of humanitarian aid, coordination on the issue of Sputnik vaccine in India, and we are also looking at mutual recognition of vaccine certificates for the purposes of international travel. So I think on the whole, today has been a very productive day of discussions, which was topped up by the meeting between our Prime Minister and President Putin.
And as far as giving a wider dimension to these ties in the ways, the manners in which India and Russia cooperate, I think that is something that is again being pursued now very actively, especially in this digital age, because of the kind of technology and the kind of disruption that is being brought in. And do you think that is some where India and Russia can really take things forward mutually as well? Ambassador Malhotra.
Yes, please.
Yes, I would agree with what Venkatesh Ambassador Verma was going to say. It is indeed something we can take forward. The Russians have considerable strengths in those areas, as do Indians, as does India. And in fact, it is well known that there are many allegations made by the West about interference in their elections, etc., by certain persons, perhaps operating out of Russia. And
hackers.
So there are certain things out there that can be looked at. There are strengths that the Russians have. There are strengths we have. I think cyberspace, cybersecurity, and everything that goes with it, and IT generally, is an area of important and serious cooperation that we can further develop on. We have been cooperating actually on it. It isn't as if it's new, but it can be worked on further.
Certainly, because what we're looking to do is also counter a lot of activities that are getting another dimension to them, and these are illegal activities ranging from terrorism to narcotics to human trafficking. That is again something that India and Russia have a very common interest in curbing, and that is also something that can be pursued if you enhance cooperation in this particular area of ICT. Isn't that so, Ambassador Verma?
Yes, India and Russia cooperate at various levels. We have an extensive cooperation at the bilateral level between our security agencies, including our national security councils. They have a cyber dialogue conversation. They have a dialogue or conversation on counterterrorism. India and Russia cooperate together at the United Nations Security Council and other UN bodies which deal with drug trafficking in Vienna, including in the area of financing of terrorism. And Russia and India have a strong track record of having a common approach to fighting international terrorism. And this is of particular importance as we face the new challenges that are emanating from Afghanistan, where a number of terrorist groups that are concerned to India have also recognized a concern to Russia. And those were particularly mentioned in the Foreign Secretary's briefing this evening.
Yes, certainly. So a lot of positives to draw out, and quite a landmark meeting, one can call it, although we still have to know the full details of what exactly has happened in terms of those MOUs and agreements. 28 of them, that in itself looks like a very big number. And we will, of course, talk about this further as well. But for the moment, thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador Verma and Ambassador Malhotra. Now, even as new cases of the Omicron variant cropped up at home, the latest iteration of the COVID virus has now spread to 45 countries worldwide. The thrust on vaccination to combat the spread is apparent at home, as India's Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia announced that 85% of the country's eligible population has got at least one shot of the anti-COVID vaccine. There's a rising trend in European nations now of putting curbs on people avoiding vaccines as well. It had been announced in Germany earlier, and now Italy is following suit. Here's more.
The outbreak of Omicron has made worldwide headlines. The new variant has spread to more than 45 countries since it was first detected in South Africa last week. Thailand detected its first case of the Omicron coronavirus variant in a US citizen who had traveled to the country from Spain late last month, a health official said on Monday. The confirmed case in the man who had arrived on November 29th makes Thailand the 47th country to have found the new variant, while a probable case of the Omicron variant has been detected in a crew member of a Norwegian cruise ship that reached the New Orleans on Sunday after detecting COVID-19 among some crew and guests. In Germany, the newly designed health minister said that vaccinations will play the central part in the fight against the pandemic, but it will not be the only one. He added that Germany will be better prepared for future pandemics.
Wir werden das System wieder robuster machen.
We will fight this pandemic, which will take longer than many people think, but we will manage. Vaccinations will play the central part, but not the only one. We will win the fight against the pandemic, and we will be better prepared for future pandemics than we have been for this one.
The new variant has prompted leaders to impose new COVID-19 restrictions. Italy tightened curbs on Monday on people still not vaccinated against COVID-19, limiting their access to an array of places and services. Police started enforcing the measure from the early hours, with anyone caught without the health certificate facing an automatic €400 or $451 fine. Hesitancy towards vaccination still persists in many countries. Anti-vax protesters camped outside City Hall in the northern Greek city of Thessaloniki on Sunday, following a demonstration by thousands against mandatory vaccinations. Some 63% of Greece's 11 million population have been vaccinated so far. Those who fail to comply from January 16th would face a recurring monthly fine of €100. Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis said that it was necessary to protect more than 500,000 elderly Greeks who had failed to get the jab.
I have to tell you, it was a decision that tortured me personally, but I feel a heavy responsibility in standing next to those most vulnerable, even if it might fleetingly displease them.
Experts have warned that future pandemics could be even more lethal than COVID-19, so that the lessons learned from the outbreak must not be squandered, and the world should ensure that it is prepared for the next viral onslaught.
There will be a disease Y. This will not be the last time a virus threatens our lives and our livelihoods. And I'd like to finish on a high note, but the truth is the next one could be worse. It could be more contagious or more lethal, or both.
Back in India, the cumulative COVID-19 vaccination coverage has exceeded 127 crore 93 lakh, while recovery rate currently stands at 98.35%. On Monday, the country achieved another milestone. 85% of the eligible population have been inoculated with the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia in a tweet said that another day, another milestone. 85% of the eligible population inoculated with the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. With Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's mantra of Sabka Prayas, India is marching ahead strongly in the fight against COVID-19.
Hybrid immunity refers to getting a vaccination shot after you have been infected with COVID-19. Right now we know that many Indians have already sustained an infection either in the first wave of COVID-19 or in the second wave, the wave associated with Delta, which came earlier this year. The idea that scientists have is that if you follow any earlier infection with a vaccination, that works much better at protecting you.
The pandemic has forced students and educators to rapidly adapt to online learning. However, resuming face-to-face learning is another priority for many. On Monday, children aged between 6 to 9 years old in the Philippines capital of Manila returned to school on Monday for the first time after nearly 2 years of online classes as part of a pilot scheme to resume face-to-face learning after the pandemic disrupted the education of 27 million students. Health experts say efforts to end the COVID-19 pandemic have been uneven and fragmented, marked by limited access to vaccines in low-income countries. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will dedicate development projects worth over 9,600 crore rupees in Uttar Pradesh's Gorakhpur on Tuesday. He will inaugurate a fertilizer plant, fully functional complex of AIIMS Gorakhpur and a new building of the ICMR Regional Medical Research Centre on Tuesday. More in this report.
With a vision to pave the new path of development in the eastern region of Uttar Pradesh, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Gorakhpur and dedicate to the nation development projects worth over rupees 9,600 crore. In a boon for farmers, Prime Minister will dedicate the Gorakhpur fertilizer plant, which will help in achieving self-sufficiency in production of urea. Over the years, this fertilizer factory was reduced to a poll agenda by politicians. After a span of 3 decades, the plant will revitalize the economic growth of the region.
इस पूरे पूर्वांचल इलाके की एक नई आर्थिक इकोनॉमिक प्रोग्रेस, उनकी ग्रोथ का एक नया द्वार खुला है.
Lying shut for more than 30 years, the fertilizer factory has been revived and built at a cost of around rupees 8,600 crore. Spread over an area of 600 acres, has been a dream project for Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. Gorakhpur plant project has the world's tallest prilling tower of 149.2 meters and is capable of producing 31 megawatt of electricity, more than its requirement. Once operational, the fertilizer plant will not only boost supply of neem-coated urea at affordable rates, but will also generate job opportunities.
यह खाद कारखाना केवल यहाँ पर किसानों को समय पर उर्वरक और रसायन उपलब्ध कराने में, बल्कि ढेर सारी रोजगार की संभावनाओं को आगे बढ़ाने में इसकी एक बहुत बड़ी भूमिका होगी.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also dedicate to the nation the fully functional complex of AIIMS Gorakhpur. The state-of-the-art hospital has been constructed with a cost of around 1,000 crore rupees. It will be a boon for patients from Purvanchal, Bihar and Nepal.
एम्स बनने से हुआ है कि गरीब लोगों का भी कम से कम दाम में इलाज हो जा रहा है और अच्छी इलाज हो रहा है.
दूर जाना पड़ता था और प्राइवेट में जाना पड़ता था तो फीस बहुत ज़्यादा लगती थी. यहाँ पे कम फीस है और मतलब अच्छी सुविधा है.
गिना चुना भारत में बहुत कम एम्स है, जो कि एक गोरखपुर में बन गया. तो धन्यवाद देता हूँ उत्तर प्रदेश सरकार को कि गोरखपुर के लिए उन्होंने उत्तर प्रदेश के लिए गोरखपुर के लिए खास इतना सोचा और एम्स बनाया.
A new building of the ICMR Regional Medical Research Centre will also be inaugurated. The centre has been instrumental in tackling the challenge of Japanese encephalitis, acute encephalitis syndrome in the region.
अब इस इंस्टीट्यूट के बन जाने से क्या होगा, जैसे टीबी है, मलेरिया है, HIV है, एड्स है, बहुत सारी जो बीमारियां हैं जिसके ऊपर हम लोग नए नए रिसर्च कर पाएंगे, उनके ऊपर नई ड्रग्स आ रही हैं, उनके ऊपर रिसर्च हो पाएगी, और जो लोगों के सैंपल कभी बाहर भेजने पड़ते हैं, जैसे NIV पुणे भेजने पड़ रहे हैं, दिल्ली भेजने पड़ रहे हैं, वो नहीं भेजने पड़ेंगे और यहाँ ही जो है उनकी जांच भी हो पाएगी।
All in all, the inaugurations will boost the growth of the region, enhance capacity building and provide support to other development projects of the region. With AV Singh, Bureau Report, DD India.
And that's all we have for the moment on this edition of Newsnight, but all the latest continues right here on DD India. It's Parliament News that's up next, so stay tuned.